I lost my sight in the 1998 American Embassy bombing. And from that day, I have never seen light of day again. When it dawned upon me that I lost sight, I was very much devastated, very bitter. In fact, I imagined that if I would have made the men behind the bombing, I would have skinned them alive. Little by little, slowly by slowly, so that they could feel the pain and the challenge we're going through. But down the line, I realized that bitterness and anger only but starts healing. So I chose to start picking up the pieces and moved on. In fact, maybe the things I've done for the last 22 years, I wouldn't have done them if I had sight. I remember in 2007, we organized a trip to bring Nick Vujicic. And I asked Nick, if you were asked so for someone to give you back your legs and arms, would you choose to have them? And Nick told me, no, Douglas, I would rather be what I am. I can play tennis, I can swim, get hugs from girls without my legs and hands. I'm better off the way I am. So even me, if you'd ask me if I would want to get my eyes back, I would simply tell you I'm better off the way I am. In 2002, I received an invitation to travel to America after the September 11 to speak to the congregations and religious leaders who were affected by the September 11 attacks. And I was supposed to leave Nairobi with someone else. When we reached the airport, she was told that her passport was not valid for her to travel because you're supposed to have a passport which is valid for 6 months. So I had to travel alone to the States. But when I arrived in Washington, I thought that my host, the professor in which the university I was going to speak, was there waiting. But unfortunately, she wasn't there. That meant I had to find ways to make it to my destination. When I went asking for a cab, I was told a cab from where I was in Washington to my destination was $1,000. But I only had $100 in my pocket. So there was no way I could take a cab. But eventually I was told that there was a bus which was going to come after 13 hours, a Greyhound bus. So I had no choice but to book for the Greyhound bus and wait for the 13 hours. So eventually when the driver came, he came and ushered me in, and then we took off. 2 hours later, we reached our destination and people stopped and one person disembarked from the chair who was the one who was sitting just beside me. So outside my bus window, I heard someone speaking. And the language this person was speaking in was neither English or Swahili. So I heard the lady say goodbye in my mother tongue. So as she came passing by me, I stopped her and greeted her in my mother tongue also. She almost collapsed. To my surprise, this lady, after we had conversed for some time, she knew me and I knew her. She even knew Tekla Namachanja, to whom I was traveling with to the States. They were in the same university, doing the same course. She even knew the professor who was coming to receive me. That became a big story in America. Douglas, guardian angel on Greyhound bus. That is the power of connection. And I have witnessed the power of connection in my life. After speaking at that conference at that university, someone connected me to go to the rehabilitation center in Richmond, Virginia, where I learned how to live again as a blind person. I learned how to use braille. When I was at that rehabilitation center, a professor who was at St. Mary's University, whom we wrote a book with him, and he invited me to go to Barnes & Noble to launch this book. The book was called When Blood and Tears United Our Country, the bombing of the American embassy in Kenya. I was the main character in the book. When I was with this professor, I got an invitation again to do a cycling journey from Ground Zero in New York all the way to the Pentagon. I had never been on a bicycle, but I only went and trained in my rehab center like 20 minutes. and I went to do this ride for 3 days. And when I reached the Pentagon, actually my hands were feeling numb, my legs were sore, and my bottom felt like it was on fire. I never thought I would ride on a bicycle again, but that served as a beginning of my adventure cycling journey. I met this man called Eric Weinmeyer, the first blind man in the world to reach the top of Mount Everest. And through his connection, we came to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. 5 of us blind reached the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, Uhuru Peak. And on the peak, we were there with the current president of the International Chamber of Commerce, Sir Paul Polman, my very good friend. With Paul, we formed the Kilimanjaro Blind Trust Africa. What a connection, the power of connection. In life, it's very hard to walk alone. You can't go far. But when you walk with others, you go further. Today here, you are with Absa Bank, you are with Madison, with Ajua, and even Sabrina. Together with these organizations, you can go very far. So the power of connection can change your life. You may be here today, but you may meet someone here who can transform your life. You might be a startup or you might be an SME, but you have the power in your hands. The power is in your mind. You can transform yourself from today. Even me, I am here. I do payroll management. I'm in energy development. You might be interested in my company. We can work together. We can become partners, and we can change our lives. We can change our communities. We can change our families, and we can change our government. Thank you very much.